Welcome into another edition of Game Changers. I'm Mike Cunha. The Dolphins are, of course, hey, this is my camera, Kim Bocamper. Okay. My camera. So now we're going to show these two. Okay, fine. Kim Bocamper,
what does he mean
Steve
by that?
Golds.
I don't know. Maybe you're a camera hog.
Yeah. Have you seen how many jobs this guy has?
Plus, I'm looking good today.
He is a camera.
I'm trying to look sharp, bring a little professionalism to the program.
Yeah. It's about time.
Yeah, it is about time. Someone did.
Listen, let's talk Miami Dolphins because that's where we're headed, right? I mean, we're right in the thick of Dolphins training camp. Guys,
it's the dog days.
I don't think so. I'm
already.
I don't think they have dog days anymore. Just in my
because there's no two-a-days.
Two-a-days. Keep going. Back in his day.
Back in my day, I went up at 4 a.m.
Yeah. He's like LeBron with the practices. Yeah. Not one, not two, not three. The old Don Shula days.
He never misses an opportunity to tell us about it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Listen, we had Teron Armstead basically call out Tua with the jiu-jitsu and the boxing thing. Is everything okay in Dolphins? I'm kidding.
Hey, it's you know what's funny? What's funny about this thing? This has been the first time I've ever heard jiu-jitsu in conjunction with the NFL, which is very unique and it's different.
Yeah.
If I hear the word jiu-jitsu again, I think I'm going to go crazy.
Would you prefer the guys that do yoga? Would you prefer that?
So it's funny because I'm listening to Tua and he's up there. Okay, I did some other stuff. I did the jiu-jitsu. I did this. And he snuck in there in the middle. Oh, and I did neck exercises. Mm-hmm. Nobody picks up on that.
Right.
They go, oh, what about the jiu-jitsu? Who are you going to fight? Now you got Teron out there.
With boxing gloves.
I'm going to tell you what, and I was right in the front row when Teron, when he was asked the question. Yeah. And I looked at Teron, and I said, I'm a pretty big guy. I wouldn't step in the ring with him.
Yeah.
Even in my prime, I wouldn't step in the ring with him.
Right. When he joked, I'd whoop Tua. Everyone was like, yep.
Whoop.
Yep, that's fine.
Tua might not make it in the ring.
And Tua agreed by that.
Yes, he agreed. This is all fun, by the way. But it's got to be, Goldie, it's got to be a lot of fun to see Teron Armstead out there. Do you think this offensive line would have been able to function with him for a full season? Like, his goal is to play 17 games. Mm-hmm. Or would they be in danger without him?
I mean, I think they definitely would be, and they were. Yeah. By the way, though, that shirt that he was wearing, you saw the top and the bottom, and those. Yeah. It actually says, "I wish it were hotter." Yeah. And they gave him to all the players. A lot of the players wear that kind of one of those, emotional, psychological things when they're out there in the heat. He's been the key to the O-line. The O-line struggled last year without him. He moves everybody. I think everybody's slotted better. We still got to see, if Liam Eichenberg can be a mainstay at that left guard spot. But, for Liam Eichenberg, still a pretty young guy. Connor's made a great adjustment at center. You got Teron over on that left side. So when he's in the lineup, Liam Eichenberg, not that they're hiding him, but he's in a pretty good spot. Yeah, right. So they need him healthy, particularly in my opinion. I'm going to say there's 17 of them plus at least a dozen games, and they better be the right games. At the end of the year, he needs to be in there. That's the key.
I think you got 4 out of the last 5 games at home, which is good, and if you can have him for those games. But the other problem with when he's out, it's kind of like when you're in elementary school and you got the substitute teacher, right? Teron's out, and whether it's Lamb or whoever it is comes in and lines up there, everyone kind of when Teron's in there, you make a mistake, he's going to let you know about it, and he's going to correct you. And so it's like having that guy, it's like having the regular teacher in there as opposed to the substitute teacher. He's going to crack the whip on these guys. And not only that, but I think just him wanting to get back to practice early this year sends a message to some of those younger guys that maybe last year said, I'm a little nicked up, maybe I don't need to play. Right. Say, wait, if you're a pro, if you want to be a leader, this is what you do in the NFL. And maybe some of those guys learn that a little bit and are able to play a little more than they normally would.
Do everything you can to get back on the field. Yep. Be on the field. Because as we saw last year, when guys miss time, this team is not the same. Speaking of which, the defense had a bit of a blow this week with the whole Jalen Ramsey thing. Tua. Mm-hmm. In the steps he's taken and in the progressions he's made over his career the last couple of years, is there more pressure on him this year? Obviously, just to not only be available for every game, obviously he's doing the things to get there, but do you find him in a spot where there's more pressure this year than any other? Because he seems looser than he's ever been.
I'll say this. The questions for Tua from a physical standpoint, I'm not talking about an injury standpoint. From a physical standpoint, I think he alleviated a lot of the questions last year. Sure. Accuracy, throwing the ball down the field. I still would like him to get rid of the ball a little bit, being willing to throw a play away. in order not to, instead of trying to stretch it out a little bit. But I do see, I see him more comfortable. I see him at the podium. A little more comfortable, kind of getting out a little, opening up a little bit more than he was last year. And I think that comfort level comes from Mike McDaniels from day one when he got in that airplane and picked up that phone and said, Tua, you're my guy. He's been working on his psychology all the way along. So I think Tua is confident. Yeah. I think he's happy. I think he's excited about this season with all the weapons he's got. And I think he feels, hey, I'm stronger. I'm going to be this guy this year, not this guy.
I think they had to kind of deprogram him a little bit from the lack of confidence that coaches had given him in the past. And, he's at this point in his career where I think last year, in my opinion, was the pressure year. Yeah. If he didn't get it done with the young offensive guru that came in and gave him the confidence, then everybody's questioning him, hey, what's it going to take? Yeah. I think with them picking up his fifth-year option, Mike, last year, the games he played, he was phenomenal, top 10 in MVP voting. I think the pressure is off of him to prove whether or not he can be a key quarterback. I think the pressure he has now is, can his team go to a Super Bowl? That's the I think the real pressure was last year, though, in my opinion.
Team pressure, and that's good, good because now we got to get to see the real Tua, maybe the Tua we experienced in Alabama.
Look, he's a guy. He understands the offense. He understands the play calling, and he's got had a lot of trouble last year. Sometimes getting the play calling into him on time. And I know Mike's. There's a lot of words in his play calling. Yeah. I wish he'd trim them down, but I think another year of Tua in that. I don't think you'll have those where he's. Get the play and get the play and be a little more timely.
He's mentioned there's less strain going into the year on that stuff, more strain on, hey, maybe chemistry, working on the side, getting throws in. So,
but let's add to it, not only the two guys that he throws to, but you bring in Chosen and Berrios. Yeah. I mean, that receiving. Remember last year, Trent Sherfield's coming out of nowhere. You're wondering who those extra guys are. I think that receiving core is absolutely loaded up, and we know Raheem out of the backfield can catch the football.
Not only loaded, talented, but I trust those guys. I look at that roster and go, I trust every guy he's throwing to.
I think Berrios is going to be a
big. Let me tell you what, I'm looking at that middle of the field. Berrios should own that middle of the field. Own it.
All right, jotting that down because I'm going to pick him up in fantasy
We're
football.
Excited here. We're excited here. Buddy.
All right, much more to come here on Game Changers. We're going to flip the script and look at the Dolphins' defense when we come back. We'll see if Bo's, can give us some insight on what Vic Fangio's doing.
Insight.
Wait.
Welcome back to Game Changers. We're still talking Dolphins, but let's talk a little defense. We've got the whole preseason broadcast crew here today. We've got Steve Goldstein, we got Bo. I know.
Let's go down to the sideline, talk to Mike Cooper.
Well, let's go. Take it away, Mike.
Listen, guys, we've already got our
All right, back to the booth, Bo.
They never give me any time.
Come on, my man.
He's just going to finish
I love you, brother.
Yeah. I mean, you call the Dolphins, you call the Panthers.
Yeah, but you know what?
What else do you want?
It's TV, so everyone can see what's going on. So
I learned this a long time about Goldie. He gets paid by the word.
I just going to say.
The key is you'll learn.
All right.
I don't. That's the key.
Okay, let's talk about the defense, please, before the crew kicks us out of here. Jalen Ramsey had a little bit of a procedure done on the knee. The meniscus gets hurt. We saw him out at practice this week, limping around with the crutches, but good to see him out there. Bo, overall concern, I mean, if he is in fact back by December, can they sustain? Can they be okay without it?
Look. There's been a lot of conversation this offseason and previous off seasons. Why do you take so many cornerbacks? Why do you have so many cornerbacks in there? They got Cam Smith. He's going to have an opportunity with Jalen Ramsey out there. Cross is going to have a opportunity out there. These guys are going to have chances here and opportunities. I think that he may be back a little sooner, depending on the meniscus repair, but. I think he's October, November, December. If you can get him back, I think that's plenty of time. I'm not worried about that. I'm really not worried about that because of the depth that they have in the cornerback position. The thing I'm really excited about that defense is I feel like they got a first-round draft pick that's about 68 years old or 50, however old Vic Fangio is. Yeah. To me, he's the equivalent of a first-round draft choice on this football team because he's going to make a big difference scheme-wise in the defense, disguising, showing different looks. I watch him practice, and I'm like, oh, geez, they got this line. Oh, no, now they got this. They got 3 guys down. They got 2. They got 4. They got this. So they're moving a lot of things, a lot of pieces, and he's got a lot of pieces in that puzzle that are interchangeable that you don't need to take them off the field to make changes that make it difficult for an offense. And I'm looking forward to him as much as anybody.
One of the changes they did do or bring in once Ramsey went down was they brought in a guy in Eli Goldie who has a little experience with Tyreek Hill on the field. They're not shy about getting into it, or at least they weren't in the past. Both Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel told separate media outlets that, look, we called Tyreek Hill just to check to make sure there would be no problems in the locker room. How do you feel about that? Is that the route to go, or you just say, hey, no, Ramsey's out, we need somebody, go get the best player available?
First off, I think these social media beefs these days are meaningless.
PR?
It's PR. They're having fun. You can hit send immediately. Tyreek Hill wants to win.
Yes.
And if Eli Apple, who he had a little beef with on Twitter and going head-to-head with on the field, if that guy can help the team win, bring him on. Bring on 10 Eli Apples. Yeah. So I think that's why Tyreek said what he said. It's good they got a veteran guy in there. Yeah. Obviously, that position has been a little snake bit both last year and this year. I mean, you still got Nick Needham on the sideline. Keen Crosson's a bit banged up. Trill Williams not practicing every day, coming off the injury. So you can never, as you said, have too many corners. And a guy like that in his late 20s available, hey, why not? And by the way, he's made a couple of deep runs in the playoffs. So if you get to late in the season, he's got to play a role in this team. Big games aren't going to phase that guy. He's been through.
Let's make no mistake. Eli Apple is not Deion Sanders. I mean, he's struggled in this league at the cornerback spot. So it's not like you're getting some guy here that's bulletproof. Right. He's got to come in and show that he can play, and he's got to have challenge. These guys aren't going to they're not just going to open the door for Eli Apple and give him the job. Those guys want that job as bad as he does. So that's going to be for the 3 preseason games. That should be, if you really want to watch, that should be one of the battles that you're looking at. Right. Who's going to be that opposite guy from X?
You know what I thought was really interesting, though? That first day Eli Apple was on the field, the fans were out there and everything, he jumped right into one-on-ones. There was no shying away from it. I mean, he hadn't been to camp yet. And he is, hey, let's go. There's no time like the present. So good on him for being ready to go, at least for that. Noah Igbenogany?
No.
He's
still here.
Number 9 going to make an impact?
Number 9. Is he going to make it to number 9? Season number 9 here in the Aqua and Orange.
Well, what is he going on? Season 3 or 4 right
season
now?
Season 3. He's got a long way to go. He's a good kid. He works hard, but he's not what you expected out of a first-round draft pick. 3 years in, didn't pick up his option, much like they did with Austin Jackson. 2 guys were first-round draft picks. And look, I haven't seen a team give players like that as much leash as they've given them. Normally, if they'd have played the way they've played in the last couple of years,
is that Chris Greer wanting to prove?
I think it may be a little bit of Chris Greer. I would think more is Mike McDaniel, who seems to be a little bit more open to saying, hey, let's give this guy a little more opportunity. Let's just see a little more before we cash out.
The other couple of things on them is, number one, they got so banged up in the secondary. If they weren't, you never know. And number two, when they did draft him, they did know it was a project. I'm not saying 3 years of a project, but they did know at the time was a project. And you see it in practice when we're out there. Sam Madison. I don't know if I've seen a position coach talk to one particular player when you got 10 or 12 in your group as much. Sam Madison, if it doesn't work, and it's not on Sam Madison. Sam's doing all he can.
It's not for lack of trying. All right, we got much more to come here on Game Changers. During the break, I'm going to start a Twitter beef with these two.
Twitter. Isn't it?
It's X. X now. I can't keep up with the kids these days. Next on Game Changers, Marlins make some moves to annoy Goldie's Mets. We'll talk about it next. We're back on Game Changers. We're going to pivot from the football field to the baseball diamond. The Marlins making some trades at the trade deadline. For the first time, I don't know, in my lifetime, they're actually buyers. And it feels good, except when they trade for some of the guys that play for Goldie's Mets, and then they blow saves, a la Mr. Roberts said. Goldie, jokes aside, your feeling on the Marlins this year, actually, I mean, you can dissect the trades if you want and be like, is Berger good? Is Josh Bell good? But just the appearance of saying, hey, we're going to try to improve as opposed to selling everyone off at the deadline. have the Marlins shifted into a new era?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. They're right there in the wild card race. Unfortunately, since the All-Star break, they haven't played well, so they're actually a little bit behind, but they're trying. Very frustrating on Tuesday night when Robertson, after Sandy's great game, that game is over, but he blows the save. But, you bring in Berger. Before that, you saw Bell. These are a couple of veteran guys. These guys have 36 home runs between them. I don't have a problem with the guys they trade. I know some people, Garrett Cooper's been around.
Right.
Hey, Garrett Cooper's not part of the solution. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I have no problem with them doing that. But what it signals is that, hey, we're in it. We're going to make some moves. Sure. We need a little more pop in our lineup. Let's make a try for it. And the overall message, whether it works or not, is certainly a positive one from Bruce Sherman and this entire franchise.
You look at this, and the Marlins, as long as they've been around, what's the thing you always talk about? Geez, nobody's going to the games. Nobody's going to the games. And look, whatever they've done, and I know they're kind of coming back to the pack now. They started out red hot, really great, and so people are going. People are now becoming fans of the Marlins, and I think that's important because look, you can go all the way back to Lurie. You can go back to everything that's gone on for the most part with this team, and it's all been disappointing to the fans. And basically just, they seem they didn't care about the fans. It seemed now this regime at least cares about them, has done something to bring them back into the house. And I think they're averaging 12, 13,000 a game. When was the last time we saw that with this team? Maybe not back until when Jim Leland was here with those guys.
Baby steps.
Back then, yeah.
Something Bruce Sherman said during camp was, camp, you can tell him so
close enough. We know
spring training was that he has expectations of winning and making the playoffs. I don't think I've ever heard an owner say that down here for the Marlins in the past.
No, they're just concerned about making money. The other owners are just concerned about making money.
And if they did say it, no one believed it.
Carpetbaggers.
All right. Still to come on Game Changers, Zack Thomas head to the Hall of Fame. We're going up there. Kim Bokamper is going to keep complaining about David Sampson during the break, but we'll be back and we'll move back over to Zack.
I'll get on word.
We're back on Game Changers. Zack Thomas headed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If you ask me, it's late. Like, this should have happened years ago. And so that's the first question I want to ask Kim Bokamper.
Yeah.
Bo, who do we blame for the fact that it's 2023 and Zack Thomas is now going into the Hall of Fame?
Well, look, you look, it was much like his playing career. He kind of had to wait behind Ray Lewis. He had to wait behind Urlacher, right? There were some of those guys that were jumped ahead of him, and then finally he got his due after those guys. And I think it's the same type of thing here with some of the guys that were stacked up before him. But make no mistake about it. If anybody's as deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, Zack Thomas, from what he did, from where he came to what he did in the NFL, comes from Texas Tech, didn't have, was a 5th or 6th round pick. No one gave him, one of the first inside drills they did, he knocked Jack Del Rio off of a starting job into the coaching profession to make way for a Hall of Famer. So, and not only that, but he represents what's best about the NFL. He's represented what's the best about the Miami Dolphin organization. He's represented the best of his family that he grew up with, and he represents the best of his family that he's developing and within his community. He is a wonderful person, and this Dolphin family should be proud as could be to have them with him. And the Hall of Fame should be proud to have him in the Hall of Fame.
Goldie,
awesome guy.
I love this. People do it all the time. There's like a graphic where they won't show the picture. They'll put like Brian Urlacher stats against Zack Thomas's stats, and then you kind of have to guess who's who because his stats are so similar. If you had to have one guy, who would it have been? Well,
that's a great question. I'm biased, obviously, because we saw Zack play all those years. I would take Zack Thomas. Urlacher's a great player also. I just think, and Bo, you said it very well. I think the big thing, Mike, is we know about the football. It's a Hall of Fame person. I mean, Zack Thomas is as grounded today going into the Hall of Fame as he was the day he got here as a mid-late round draft pick. And he said in his press conference, I was just trying to make the team. I wasn't thinking about Pro Bowls. Just trying to make the team.
His teams never really won that much. Right. They really weren't good teams. And so after some of these excruciating games, and no one took it harder than Zack did when they lost games. I remember walking in that locker room time after time, and you could see him, and you could just see the hurt and the pain in his face, but he would stand there for hours until the last person left and talk to everybody, answer all their questions. It's a class act, and man, bravo for him. I mean, it couldn't happen to a better person and a better family.
His press conference the other day was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He teared up a few times. I think the betting line is not going to be on over/under on if speech limit, time limit. It's going to be how many times does Zack
stop and cry? What do you think? 3.5?
I'm putting
3.5 is the over.
I think the delay in getting in, it really created a whole.
It's like a volcano. It's ready to go all at once.
Yeah,
Plus,
awesome.
the thing is, and I talked to him after the press conference, and his kids were there, and I said, this is kind of a blessing in disguise that you waited, because the kids never saw him play.
Right.
The kids will be there, and they will understand.
Yeah.
They're not so young where they won't really remember it. They understand, and they realize what's going on. They're old enough to do that, so that's a nice thing.
I like that you had to slide in that you talked to Zack Thomas. Nice little brag there at the end of the show. For Goldie and Bo
said
Camp,
hi.
I'm Mike
What do you want from me?
If we don't leave, Goldie's going to keep getting paid more money. The station's going to run out of money.
To me when I go, he goes by me.
What's going on?
No, not those
Put
kind
your
of hand signals.
professionals. All right, that's it for Game Changers. We'll see you next time. Thanks to these guys for joining us.